All right, let's dive into a thought experiment. It's a pretty wild one, a total fantasy, but stick with me, because the answer tells us something really important about just how fragile our world is. So, picture this. You wake up one morning, you look out your window, and there's just a perfectly flat horizon. No peaks, no hills, not even a cliff. What would actually happen if overnight every single mountain on Earth just vanished?
Now, at first, you might actually think, hey, this isn't so bad. I mean, travel would be way faster without all those winding mountain roads, right? The risk of landslides? Gone. Planes could just fly in a straight line without worrying about massive mountain ranges.
But that feeling of convenience, yeah, that wouldn't last long. Because what seems like a simpler world would very, very quickly spiral into a total global catastrophe. A world without mountains is a world on the absolute brink of collapse.
And here's why. Mountains aren't just pretty, static things to look at. They're actually one of the most important and active systems that keep our entire planet stable and, alive.
So the very first, most immediate crisis we would all face is water. Almost instantly, the planet would start to experience this deep, devastating thirst.
This slide shows us exactly how that works. You see, mountains are basically giant, natural rain-making machines. This process here, orographic lift, forces moist air up, it cools, and boom, you get rain and snow. And this isn't some minor thing. It is a fundamental engine driving weather all across the globe.
So, the bottom line is, you take that engine away and the whole system just collapses. Huge areas that completely rely on that mountain-driven rain would suddenly turn into deserts. We would see severe droughts just spreading across continents, leading to crop failures on a catastrophic scale and a global food crisis.
And it's not just about making rain in the first place. Mountains also act as the planet's natural water towers. I mean, think of them as these massive frozen reservoirs. They catch and they store incredible amounts of snow all winter long.
Then, when things warm up, all that snow melts and provides this steady, reliable supply of fresh water into the world's greatest rivers. Without mountains, the rivers that entire civilizations are built on, we're talking the Ganges, the Yangtze, the Colorado, they'd shrink to, well, barely a trickle.
And let's be clear, this is not some small, localized issue. We are talking about billions of people, billions, facing critical water shortages. People who need that water for drinking, for growing food, and for electricity from hydroelectric dams. The human cost is just staggering.
But the crisis wouldn't stop at water. Not even close. You see, on top of being water towers, mountains also act as these enormous climate shields that regulate weather on a continental scale.
And this quote just nails it perfectly. Take the Himalayas, for instance. They're like this colossal wall. They physically block frigid polar winds from blowing south, which protects the climate of an entire subcontinent.
So, what you end up with are two totally different worlds. Our world, the one with mountains, has relatively stable regional climates, predictable weather. But in a world without them, you get absolute chaos. We're talking extreme temperature swings and chaotic air masses just wreaking havoc everywhere.
And of course, we can't forget the mountains themselves are just teeming with life. All those unique ecosystems, the alpine meadows, the incredible mountain forests, all the animals that have adapted specifically to high altitudes, they'd all just be gone in an instant. Countless species that exist nowhere else on Earth would go extinct overnight.
But the consequences, believe it or not, run even deeper than weather and wildlife. To get the full picture of this catastrophe, we actually have to look at the very geology of our planet. See, mountains aren't just sitting on the Earth's surface. They are the direct result, the physical evidence of the immense power of tectonic plates grinding against each other. They're a sign that we're on a geologically active, living planet. So for them to just disappear would mean the Earth's crust had been fundamentally, impossibly broken. Rivers, suddenly stripped of their natural courses, would just carve new, random paths, creating unimaginable floods. The entire map of the world would be violently redrawn.
But the planet wouldn't be the only thing that's broken. Beyond all the geology, the climate, the water, what would this impossible loss mean for us, for humanity?
This slide here breaks it down perfectly. Culturally, we'd lose the natural borders that have defined nations for thousands of years. Economically, entire tourism industries would just collapse overnight. And for our spirit, we would lose our greatest symbols of adventure, of challenge, of what it means to strive for something.
It's a really powerful thought, isn't it? The world would become literally and figuratively flatter. That sense of awe, of standing in the presence of something ancient and huge, it would just be gone.
Which brings us to our real takeaway here. We need to completely reframe how we think about mountains. They're not passive scenery. This slide calls them silent guardians, and that's the perfect term. They are active participants constantly working to guide our weather, store our water, and support life.
So the next time you see a peak against the sky, just remember, it's not just there, it's doing something. It is a vital, working part of the engine that makes our entire world livable.
And that leaves us with one last thought. We've seen how mountains are these silent guardians, working behind the scenes. So the question is, what other critical systems do you look at every single day, without ever really seeing the vital work they do for all of us?